So this is Dragon Age Keep. You go through and you can make your choices and everything, so that you have your actual story that you played through, so you can import it into Inquisition, and you can play a video that recaps it up until the start of Inquisition, and you can make your decisions along the way if during the video if you'd like to do that. I've already made all my decisions, but if anything's wrong, I'll change it during the video.
If you believe the stories, mankind's pride gave rise to the Darkspawn. Countless in number and toxic to all life, Darkspawn search endlessly for an archdemon. When they find one, Darkspawn armies surge up from their corrupt barrows beneath the ground, and a blight begins. Grey Wardens are the only warriors capable of destroying an archdemon, and history always honors the one who sacrifices all to kill the beast. In the fifth blight, the Warden was the hero of Ferelden, a hunter from a clan of Dalish elves. The hero discovered a corrupted elven artifact and was tainted by the same foul magic that drives the Darkspawn. The only cure for the young elf was to join Duncan as a Grey Warden. The allied Ferelden and Grey Warden forces met in Ostagar, where King Kaelin's armies and a host of wardens gathered, ready to destroy the Darkspawn. But valor turned to despair as Loghain betrayed his king. Kaelin's forces were slaughtered, and the south was lost. The hero, now a full-fledged Grey Warden, survived with the aid of Flemeth, the mysterious witch of the wilds. Joined by Flemeth's daughter, Morrigan, and a Grey Warden named Alistair, the hero set out to build an army strong enough to abolish the Blight. With the traitorous Loghain now seated on Ferelden's throne, the Warden sought help from the influential Arl Eamon of Redcliffe. However, they arrived in Redcliffe to find the town under siege, as each night, undead rose in waves and assailed the battered village.
I helped.
With the hero's help, the people of Redcliffe stood fast against the undead horde. The Wardens reached Arl Eamon's castle only to find the Arl lying at the edge of death, and his court fallen into madness. To save his father's life, Eamon's young son, Connor, had
Saved him.
made a deal with a demon and quickly fallen victim to its possession. The hero intervened, freeing Connor from possession and breaking the demon's hold over Redcliffe. But deals with demons are never straightforward. The demon agreed only to save Eamon's life, not restore him to health. Arl Eamon needed a miracle to recover. The hero located an urn containing the sacred ashes of Andraste, which were said to cure any ailment. The urn was protected by ancient traps, tests of will, and a dragon-worshipping cult that wanted to twist the urn's power to its own ends. The urn remained pure, but mysteriously disappeared after the Wardens departed. Only the temple dedicated to it still stands. With a pinch of the ashes, the hero restored the Arl to health. Informed of Loghain's treachery, Eamon swore his political and military support. The circles of Magi are bound by oath to aid the Grey Wardens in times of blight. However, Lake Calenhad's tower could offer little help. One of its mages, Uldred, had become possessed by a pride demon and was twisting other circle mages into abominations.
I supported the mages.
The hero fought to the top of the tower and defeated Uldred, saving the remaining mages. Grateful for their lives, the mages joined the Warden's army.
Figured the music was a little loud.
The allies gained at the Circle were not the only soldiers to join the Warden's forces, however. Dalish elves don't usually make alliances, but even deep hatred can be set aside in the face of oblivion. An ancient curse was destroying Ferelden's largest Dalish clans, turning the elves into werewolves. Zathrian, the clan's keeper, claim that the cure required the heart of the great wolf, Witherfang. Years before, Zathrain himself had afflicted a group of humans with the curse that now ravaged his clan.
I made them make peace.
As long as he lived, the curse endured. The hero freed the werewolves from the long-standing curse, and the Daelus joined the Warden's forces. Blights may happen hundreds of years apart, but the dwarves who live below the surface of Thedas fight Darkspawn every day. No one is better schooled in battling Darkspawn than the warriors of Orzammar, except perhaps their allies of old, the Grey Wardens. The hero arrived in Orzammar in the wake of King Endrin's death to find political factions fighting for control of the dwarven capital. Only the vote of a venerated paragon could break the deadlock to elect a ruler, and order the dwarves to honor their Grey Warden treaty and join the battle against the new Blight. The hero set off to find a paragon named Branka, who had disappeared into the Deep Roads in search of a legendary artifact, the Anvil of the Void, created by the renowned smith Caridin to forge mighty war golems.
I sided with Caridin.
The hero helped Caridin destroy the Anvil of the Void, along with the dark secrets that could trap a living soul inside a mechanical construct. The hero emerged from the Deep Roads with a master-forged crown to bestow the Paragon's favor upon whichever rival candidate would be crowned king. Balin, the youngest son of King Endrin who was suspected of foul play, or Haramont, the aging traditionalist backed by the Dwarven Assembly.
I picked Haramont. Balin was pretty treacherous.
Lord Haramont claimed the crown of Orzammar. His traditionalist values keep dwarves first in all things, and safely as far underground as possible. With Dwarden's strength now bolstering the Warden's army, the hero had to deal with Loghain, so Ferelden could stand unified against the Darkspawn, before the Blight swallowed the world. The kingdom of Ferelden stood divided. While some nobles supported Loghain's regency, others condemned his inaction against the Darkspawn. Civil war brewed, and Arl Eamon called a landsmeet in
I killed Loghain.
hopes of curtailing the conflict and removing Loghain from the throne. Loghain was found guilty of treason, and the hero carried out his execution in Denerim's palace. As the Warden's united army massed in Redcliffe, the Darkspawn overran Denerim, laying siege to Ferelden's capital city. The hero's army fought valiantly through Denerim and broke the Darkspawn's siege. On Fort Dracon's highest tower, the hero's strongest allies fought alongside the Warden in a final heroic battle against the massive Archdemon.
I killed it myself, but there's a catch.
The Archdemon was killed without the sacrifice of a Grey Warden's life. With no Archdemon to lead them,
Normally, for a Grey Warden to kill an Archdemon, which is the undead dragon controlling the Darkspawn, and you have to kill it to end the Blight, which is basically the invasion of the Darkspawn coming up out of the ground. A Grey Warden is the only one that can kill an Archdemon, because whoever kills the Archdemon has to be tainted by the Darkspawn curse or the Darkspawn infection, and killing the Archdemon also kills you, because when you kill the Archdemon, you take all the curse that it has into your own self, and it'd turn a regular person into just another Darkspawn. Or, since a Grey Warden is already tainted, they can't turn into a Darkspawn, it just kills them. So, if a regular person kills the Archdemon, the Blight just keeps going, but if a Grey Warden kills the Archdemon, they die, so the Blight stops.
the Darkspawns.
But, you can have a child with Morrigan, and it counteracts it, and I don't know if it'll explain that.
Scattered. Most fled underground, still teeming in number and always seeking a new archdemon to awaken. The shattered kingdom of Ferelden embarked on a long journey to recovery. In the Blight's aftermath, strong leadership was crucial.
I had Alistair rule because I don't like Anora.
Alistair, half-brother to King Cailan, became Ferelden's new king, and the line of rulers who descended from Calenhad the Great remained unbroken. Ferelden still stands, as obstinate and resolute as the Dog Lords ever are, but the events of the Fifth Blight loom over it as the nation rebuilds. For people across Thedas, legends of the hero of Ferelden remain the nation's brightest beacons of hope during its darkest times. It all began in Kirkwall.
And that was the end of the first game. Now this is Dragon Age 2.
The fall of Knight Commander Meredith, the Qunari Uprising, and of course, the Chantry's destruction and the onset of Mage Rebellion. One person always stood amidst the swirling chaos: Hawke, the champion of Kirkwall. The Hawke family fled Lothering, refugees from the Blight. Leandra, mother of the champion, and siblings Bethany and Carver hoped to find refuge at her family's estate in Kirkwall.
I was not a mage. My Hawke was not a mage.
Far to the north. While Hawke had no magical abilities, the champion was at the heart of events that ultimately led to the Mage Rebellion. The Hawks escaped.
I think canonically, Hawke is a mage. But being a mage or not decides whether your brother or sister dies, because your sister is also a mage. So if you're not a mage, then your sister lives, and your brother dies. If you are a mage, then your sister dies, and your brother lives. Because your brother isn't a mage.
The Blight would...
And I think that's just so that you have all archetypes, all classes in your party.
The help of Aveline Valen, a warrior and family friend. It's said that the family was also aided by Flemeth, the notorious witch of the wilds. Hawke's brother, Carver, never reached the Free Marches. He was killed by Darkspawn while protecting his family. The family's first years in Kirkwall were difficult. Leandra's brother Gamlen had lost the family fortune. The Hawks lived in poverty, forced to indenture themselves in return for entrance to the city.
I joined the smugglers because I played a rogue and it just made sense.
To pay off the debt, Hawke was forced to work for a gang of smugglers. All the while, Hawke and Bethany did their best to hide Bethany's magic from the Templars. Opportunity eventually struck in the form of a dwarf named Bartrand Tethras, who was planning an expedition to the Deep Roads. It was a long shot, but with gold gained from the expedition, Hawke could free the family from its criminal creditors and further Templar scrutiny. Hawke met a rogue Grey Warden named Anders, who possessed detailed maps of the Deep Roads. These maps were crucial to the expedition's success. Once Hawke obtained them, everything else fell quickly into place. Afraid to lose another sibling, Hawke insisted that Bethany stay in Kirkwall rather than accompany the expedition. Hawke did find ancient dwarven treasure, but the group also stumbled upon a statuette formed from a strange red lyrium.
If you don't take Bethany with you, she stays behind and becomes in the circle of the Templars eventually find her, and so she gets taken to the Circle of Magi, which is basically a prison for mages where Templars can make sure that they don't lose control of their magic and wreak havoc. If you do take her with you, and you don't have Anders in your party, who is a Grey Warden, she gets Darkspawn infection, and she dies. If you have Anders in your party when you take her, they get infected, but since Anders is a Grey Warden, he knows how to save them, but they have to become a Grey Warden in order to survive. So they survive, but they become a Grey Warden. I didn't take her because arguably the best outcome for her is become a Circle Mage, because eventually the mages rise up, and so she becomes free again.
Upon returning to the surface, Hawk found Templars taking Bethany away. Her magic had been discovered. She joined a mage circle soon after. The gold Hawk recovered from the deep roads brought back Leandra's stately childhood home in Hightown. The Hawks had barely settled into their new home when Leandra was murdered. A deeply sinister and twisted killing. Hawk hunted down Quentin, the blood mage responsible, but could not prevent Leandra's death. Leandra's tragic death was part of a critical problem facing Kirkwall. Rising tension between the city's mages, who felt increasingly oppressed, and Templars, who grew increasingly suspicious of their activities. Adding to the strain, a large contingent of Kunari had also established themselves in Kirkwall, much to the growing discomfort of the city's rulers. After their dreadnought was shipwrecked many years before, a group of stranded Kunari were allowed to remain in a cordoned-off area in Lowtown. As time passed, the Kunari made no effort to return home, and offered no explanation about why they remained. Tensions rose to a breaking point. Revered Mother Patrice, convinced the Kunari were a threat to the Chantry's faith, incited violence between the Kunari and the Kirkwall populace. Hawk knew that Patrice would bring about unnecessary conflict. Though the champion tried to stop her,
I tried to stop her and did not side with her.
Patrice orchestrated the murder of Seamus Dumar, a Viscount's son and a recent convert to the Qun. When her crime was discovered, a Kunari assassin killed her. After Seamus was murdered, the Arishok of the Kunari group lost patience with the humans of Kirkwall. They would now submit to the Qun or die. The Kunari struck hard and fast. They took the palace in Hightown and beheaded the Viscount to immediately quash any resistance. Aided by Knight Commander Meredith and First Enchanter Orsino, Hawk reached the palace and stood toe-to-toe with the fearsome Kunari leader.
I killed him so that Isabella, who was the person I romanced, wouldn't be killed.
Hawk fought the Kunari leader. The fierce battle resulted in the Arishok's death and the liberation of Kirkwall from its brief occupation. The Kunari quickly withdrew from the city entirely. Hawk saved Kirkwall and earned the grudging respect of the city's Templars, mages, and nobility, along with the title that history remembers, the Champion of Kirkwall.
Alright, they didn't explain it, but the reason the Kunari are in Kirkwall and they won't leave is they won't tell anybody why they won't leave. But it turns out that Isabella, she's a pirate captain. You figure out that she stole a religious text from them, and that's why they won't leave, because they're not allowed to return to their homeland without that. And she ends up, I think if you have high reputation or something with her, I can't remember because I never have low reputation. She brings the book back. And after you fight your way to the Arishok in the throne room, she walks up with the book and gives it back. And since they have the book, they can leave now, but he refuses to leave without bringing her along as a prisoner. So that's why you have to kill the Arishok, even though they get the book back. Because if you don't kill him, you lose her.
Kirkwall's problems were still not over, however. After Viscount Dumar's death, Knight Commander Meredith took power and blocked all attempts to appoint a new Viscount. Under Meredith's command, the Templars tightened their grip on the mages, planning to suppress what Meredith saw as a growing rebellion. Anders, who spent years fighting for justice and freedom for his fellow mages, saw that the time for negotiation was past. He destroyed Kirkwall's chantry, killing hundreds, including Grand Cleric Elthina. This single act began a rebellion that spread from circle to circle.
For reference, Grand Cleric Elthina is basically the head of the church in Kirkwall. The head of the chantry, which is basically the church. she's the only one keeping the mages and Templars from basically killing each other, because she's the only neutral party, and she keeps talking down both sides. So Anders blows up the church to kill her, and everyone else in there is just unnecessary casualties, but he blows it up to kill her so that the Templars and mages will finally fight each other.
Until all...
Because Anders thinks that's the only way that mages will ever have a chance at freedom, is they have to just hurry. They just have to hurry up and get it over with and just go to war.
All circles of Magi had risen up in defiance against Chantry rule. There was no
I kill Anders because at that point that he blows up the church, I feel like both sides are kind of begrudgingly accepting each other's points if you play your cards right, and that there is a chance for peace, and then he kind of screws everything else up because I don't think they've mentioned he has not a demon, but a spirit inside of him, because he was going to die a long time ago, and the spirit kind of possessed him so that he wouldn't die, and it saved his life. But then now he's sharing his body with a spirit, and his hatred of the Templars, because he's a mage who's always been oppressed, his hatred of the Templars turns the spirit of justice, which is basically the counterpart to a demon. A demon is evil and a spirit is good, and it's a spirit of justice that possesses him, but his hatred of the Templars morphs it into a spirit of vengeance. So basically, whenever he gets around Templars and stuff like that, he can't control himself, and he just flies off the handle. And that also makes it where, like, that's pretty much the reason why he's like, he no matter what, he's like, mages have to go to war and fight Templars, and that's why he blows up the Chantry and all that.
forgiveness for what Anders had done, and he asked for death at Hawk's hands. Hawk fulfilled the troubled mage's final request, and many others died along with Anders that day. Fighting spread swiftly through the city. Some mages rebelled openly, many of them succumbing to possession. Templars turned their swords on mages who rebelled, and on those who did not. As First Enchanter Orsino refused to bend to the Templars, Knight Commander Meredith demanded that every mage in Kirkwall be put to the sword. Hawk saved many mages from Templar blades, keeping them from succumbing to possession or
sided with the mages.
the temptations of blood magic. In the end, however, Hawk was forced to strike down Orsino, who had betrayed his own values by resorting to blood magic himself. The battle proved one thing. Knight Commander Meredith had gone mad. Hawk saw the truth of it when Meredith unsheathed her sword, and the red lyrium idol from the deep roads was embedded within it. The blade fueled her hatred and paranoia, as it had for months. After a horrific battle, the red lyrium of the Knight Commander's sword consumed her as she died. Meredith became a statue, her face a frozen mask of horror.
Okay, short little lesson. Lyrium is a magical ore that is mined deep under the earth. Dwarves are the only ones who can safely mine it because they can't be mages. They still can't directly touch pure lyrium ore, or it kind of makes you go dumb. Like it turns you stupid. It turns dwarves stupid, and then it kills every other race outright. Red lyrium, the regular stuff, is blue, and mages can use it to replenish their mana faster than usual. Templars, basically the jail guards that sit around the Circle of Magi and make sure that the mages don't go out of control or do dark magic or wreak havoc and stuff like that. Templars take small amounts of lyrium dust. It's sort of like cocaine. They take it looks like cocaine. They take little amounts of lyrium dust so that they can mess with the flow of mana in mages and nullify their magic in case they ever try to do something bad. But you get addicted to lyrium dust. So Templars need a constant supply of it, or else they get withdrawals. Red lyrium is regular lyrium, but it's corrupted somehow, and it makes anyone who's near it lose their mind and go insane and covet red lyrium, so that they do everything they possibly can to get their hands on more and more of it, no matter what that may be. And it also like makes them paranoid and everything, like it said with Knight Commander Meredith. And so Templars are more susceptible to it because they take lyrium all the time already. So when they get their hands on the red lyrium, they start going crazy, and that's why they started oppressing the mages and everything. You find out later on that's why Knight Commander Meredith had the Templars start oppressing the mages, because she got a hold of that red lyrium idol and it made her go crazy.
Little is known of the champion since that final battle. However, Hawke's story lives on in legend and song. Memories of the indelible changes the champion of Kirkwall brought to the face of Thedas. The Mage Rebellion in Kirkwall was felt throughout Thedas, the news spreading like wildfire. The Templars clamped down in response, but each new restriction only made things worse.
This is the opening of Inquisition, I believe.
Led by Grand Enchanter Fiona,
Yeah, it is.
the mages voted for independence. The Circle of Magi would govern itself, without the Chantry and especially without the Templars. The result was cataclysmic. 2 circles were destroyed. Those within killed to the last mage, before the rest fled into the wilderness.
Oh no, actually this is in between Dragon Age 2. This is after Dragon Age 2 and before Dragon Age Inquisition.
Perhaps the mighty Empire of Orlais could have intervened in the war before it began, but that was not to be. Grand Duke Espard began a deadly civil war against Empress Celine, vying for the Orlesian throne. The mages were offered safe haven in neighboring Ferelden, but the Templars followed, and so their battle spread across all of Thedas. As head of the Chantry, Divine Justinia ordered the Templars to stand down. They refused, declaring their own independence. Thus, the war began in earnest. Templars hunting mages, mages fighting Templars. Their clashes wreaked untold destruction, and all sense of order was falling to pieces. Divine Justinia made one final desperate bid to end the war. She approached the leaders of both sides and convinced them to come to a conclave held on neutral ground. With the Chantry to mediate, mages and Templars will talk for the first time since this all began. It is our last, and perhaps our only, chance for peace.
But what will happen? Spoilers. It doesn't go great.